Lake Eyre, Arabana country. An ancient landscape which certainly inspires the imagination. But how would you turn this masterpiece into a theatrical event? Well, that's exactly what young designer Jake Nash is about to do.
We're out at Lake Eyre. It's a bit of a research and inspiration trip for the new work at Bangarra called Terrain. And it's these kind of journeys, I think, that really help shape what we end up creating and putting on stage. And I think it's kind of an essential part of the creative process at Bangarra. You need these experiences to really sort of drive you and fill you up. And it's the point in the creative year, I guess, where you get to connect back to country, even if it's not your own. I guess as a designer and working for Bangarra, you're not telling your own story, you're telling other people's stories. You still have to try and connect to that place and find its heart and its spirit and communicate that, really sort of in your own way, but faithful to the place, and put that on stage. Richard, welcome down to the wharf. We're down really old part of Sydney, and this is where Bangarra's got their office and where I've got my studio, down here by the water and the bridge. It's a beautiful place to come to work every day.
It sure is. So what you going to show me today?
Well, today we're going to have a look in my studio and what I've been creating for Bangarra's next work, which is called Terrain. And then we might have a little walk through the studios and see if Fran's creating some work in there. Might be some costumes to look at, definitely some set pieces and model pieces. We might run into Stephen as well. So we'll just see who's around and what's happening. We've got Stephen Page.
Jake Nash is a graduate in theatre design from NIDA in Sydney. He has been with Bangarra Dance Theatre now for about 2 years, creating some extraordinary designs for their recent shows. I've actually been to some Bangarra productions, and I got to say I have been really impressed with the sets.
For Terrain, for the show that we've got this year, we took a trip out to Lake Eyre.
And there's your photos of that trip there?
Yeah, so we took this great flight over the lake. You try and just take as many photos as you can and be inspired by, what you're seeing and experiencing. And we'll bring all this back to the office. We have a section called Salt, and it's all about the Salt Lake, and we have a salt spirit. And so I have to try and find a way to describe that, in a theatre. And I guess...
fried chicken?
Yeah, fried chicken, bit of chicken salt.
Yeah.
And so we've got this sort of that beautiful image, and then I guess you look at this table. This is like the journey to find the language of the show, and I guess this image particularly, I guess, is a sort of reaction and a response, a storytelling way to create that, because you don't want to just put a photo in there. You want to have a response that means something to you as an artist, and then you can take that. And
thanks.
You can have that one.
Look at that! Look what I got there. There's no red in it, but you're like, good, Petey.
You've got something, it's only, 35, 40 centimetres long here, but in reality it's 16 metres long.
Yeah.
And we get these painted out at Scenographic Studio.
That's sort of going from that. It's what, more than 16 times bigger than that.
That's huge.
Yeah. The old-fashioned techniques of set painting are still being used here in the back streets of Newtown in Sydney by a company that's been working in theatre for decades.
Scenographic Studios have been around for many years, painting lots of sets for many designers and companies, and today they're painting my set for Terrain, and we're looking at the Salt cloth, which is a beautiful sort of 16 metre by 7 metre cloth. And it's all based around the salt pans of Lake Eyre. When you walk in and see the work, it's kind of beautiful because you start by you're able to walk on the cloth and experience it at a sort of ground level view, and then you get to go upstairs at this great studio space here and see it in another sort of dimension, and you really get
nice perspective on, you know, where the work's headed. It's a buzz because you're able to see your work on such a scale.
It's a long journey from the barren landscape of Lake Eyre to the Sydney Opera House. And now it's opening night for Bangarra's latest production, Terrain. Last-minute checks are done and finishing touches are added to the performance. But before the show goes on, I must have a closer look at Jake's amazing designs.
So this is it.
Right.
It's pretty big, isn't it?
Sure is. So how big is this whole piece?
This in here is 5 metres to the top of the painting.
Right.
And it's about 12, 14 metres wide.
Yeah, well, it's very different to the tiny little
Yeah, I know.
model that we had
Yeah.
back at Bangarra.
Yeah, it's interesting too when you see that model piece and then you hand it over to the Rod and Stella at Scenographic Studios and they find all this stuff that you don't see, like all this, like the blue in here, and then that little pink up there, and then they kind of just expand it to a level that's this large, and you go, wow, holy moly.
Nice. It's red.
Yeah, okay. But it's good, this one.
What do you get, the really cheap stuff or the good stuff?
No, it depends how much money.
Come on,
you got.
here's a little secret here. Come on, tell us. Do you get the good stuff or the cheap stuff?
Only the best for Bangarra, I think. Oh, that's too much.
Nothing from Bunnings.
Oh, there's lots of stuff from Bunnings. It's kind of got lots of movement, this one. It's about it's called landform.
Right.
And it's sort of about changing landscape and sort of rhythm in landscape as well.
I can just see with the light changing there.
Yeah.
In front of it.
Yeah, it sort of moves by itself, which is kind of great because it's telling its own story as well. It's about horizon lines and sort of being lost within a white, world of, I guess, salt and sky.
It's quite epic, isn't it? These whole things.
They're kind of, I think being in the white box too sort of lets it feel quite expansive.
When you're sitting in a dark space too, you're like looking at this big white space.
Yeah, it kind of plays tricks with your eyes.
Magnifies the whole thing as well.
Yeah, exactly.
The process is about to come together in a remarkably poetic piece of drama, dance and theatre, with Jake's designs crucial to this magnificent production.
I think there's stories all around us. The more time you spend just quietly sort of taking it in, things start to reveal themselves. As a designer or an artist, that you just, things reveal themselves when they want to be revealed. You can't kind of rush them. I think I do what I do because it helps me sort of work out who I am, I guess, and where I fit into this country and world. By doing and working, in theatre and telling stories, you're actually sharing and continuing culture, shape your own history as well. And that sort of influences the present and the work you create. You're only here for a short amount of time, and you've got to do what you've got to do. And if that means like retelling or finding out things about yourself and telling stories to other people and sharing, then, you know, that's what I've got to do, I guess.